So, good morning, dear students of class 9. If you remember that we have been doing the Merchant of Venice last almost a month ago, and today let us take up from where we had left off in our previous Merchant of Venice class. So, on your screen, you can see the poster of the famous movie, The Merchant of Venice, and these are all the actors and actresses whom you can see on the screen. You can see Antonio, you can see Shylock, you can see Portia, and you can see Bassanio from the left hand side of your screen to the right hand side in respective order. Now, we had done up to page 33 of your textbook till the last line of page 33, where we were saying that Portia was commenting about the different princely suitors who had come to try their chances in marrying Portia, but had decided to go back once they came to know about the terms and conditions of the will of Portia's father. Now, Nerissa was mentioning the names one by one, and Portia was commenting about each suitor. And we were in Act 1, Scene 2 of the play. And we had finished up to the end of page 33, line number 86. So we continue from page 34 today and line number 87. Now, in this context, let me just remind you that the next suitor mentioned by Nerissa was the Scottish lord, the neighbor of Falconbridge, the young Baron of England. So Nerissa mentions the name of the Scottish lord, and Portia goes on to comment about the Scottish lord. And Portia says, whatever she says, the dialogue is coming up now on your screen. And now, before we move on to that, I want to show you yet another image, an illustration where you can see Nerissa and Portia talking about the suitors. On your screen, you can see Portia in a white dress with her index finger under her chin, and Nerissa, the maid, Portia's best friend and maid, laughing and enjoying the remarks being made by Portia. She is wearing a green dress, and here the two friends are seen discussing the suitors. As you can see on your screen, on your left hand side in the green dress is Nerissa, and on the right hand side of the screen you have Portia. So from their dress you can make out Portia is the rich lady from Belmont and Nerissa is the maid servant. So here the two friends are giggling over the fact that these princely suitors are all very peculiar. So Portia will now go on to talk about the Scottish suitor who had come to try his luck in marrying Portia. Now let's see what exactly she says. So I'm scrolling up now to page 34. All of you, please take out your textbooks and please open on page 34. Here is page 34 on your screen also, so that you don't have any problem, any confusion. Now Portia says that he hath a neighborly charity in him, for he borrowed a box of the year of the Englishman and swore he would pay him again when he was able. I think the Frenchman became his surety and sealed under for another. So what she means to say here is explained alongside. If you see the side notes, you can understand better. I'm explaining, please pay attention, that he hath a neighborly charity in him. The very fact that this Scottish lord has a charity for his neighbor is proved by the fact that he borrowed a box. That is, he was given a box, a blow on the ear by the Englishman. The English suitor gave him a blow on the ear, and he simply took it just like that and did not retaliate, did not give back a blow. And what did he say instead after being hit by the Englishman? He swore he would pay him again when he was able. So he said that I will pay you back for this blow later when I have the right opportunity and when I'm able to do so. Right now, I am letting you go. Even if you have hit me in the ear, I am not going to pay you back now, but when the time comes. So this is what he said, and I think the Frenchman became his surety and sealed under for another. Now here there's a reference. I'm zooming in so that you can see better that the Frenchman refers to the French suitor, guaranteed that he would repay the debt, and the reference is being made to the constant assistance that the French gave the Scots in the quarrels with the English. Actually, the fact is that Britain and Scotland, England and Scotland, these two countries are located on the same island. The upper part of the island is Scotland and the lower part is Britain or England. And the Scottish people and the English people, they have certain differences between themselves, and that's the reason why they are always fighting with each other. And the other country which is nearest to Britain is across the English Channel, and that is France. If you see the map of Europe, you will be able to see that France is located right across the English Channel, down below in mainland Europe, and France has always been an enemy of England. So England is in the middle, Scotland is on the top, France at the bottom, and whenever Scotland has a fight with England, France always supports Scotland. So that is what Portia is saying here jokingly, that when the British suitor Falconbridge, the young Baron of England, gave a blow to the Scottish suitor, he just took it without retaliating, and he said that he will pay him back later. And he also said that it was not the right time maybe, and later on when he was able, he would be returning the blow to the Baron of England. And Portia jokingly says that maybe the French suitor became his surety and signed the agreement or gave his seal to the bond or the agreement or the understanding that later on it will be paid back to the British suitor as decided. So this is just out of fun that Portia says, just to provoke laughter in the audience. Now Nerissa says, how like you, the young German, the Duke of Saxony's nephew. Now what do you have to say about this man who has come from Germany? He is the nephew of the Duke of Saxony. So what do you have to say for him? So Portia says, very vilely in the morning when he is sober. Now this Duke of Saxony's nephew who has come from Germany, he is a heavy drinker. He drinks a lot, and throughout the day he keeps on drinking, and he is very vile or very nasty, very bad in the morning when he is supposed to be sober. So what happens is, at night when a person sleeps, even after drinking heavily, when a person sleeps, in the morning when he wakes up, the effect of the drink to some extent gets reduced, although he may have a hangover. But this man, as soon as he wakes up, at the time when he's supposed to be sober, that is not drunk, he is still very bad, and most vilely in the afternoon. And by afternoon he is the worst, because by then he has been drinking quite a lot. When he is drunk, when he is best, he is a little worse than a man. According to Portia, when he is at his best, he is a little worse than a man. That means he is out and out a very nasty person. So he is a little worse than a man, and when he is worst, he is a little better than a beast. So that is the way Portia puts it, that when he is at his best, he is a little worse than a man, and when he is a little worse, or rather when he is at his worst, he is little better than an animal. At the worst fall that ever fell, I hope I shall make shift to go without him. So Portia means to say, if the worst thing that could ever happen or fell upon me, I have to make shift, that is, I have to manage so that I don't have to marry this man. So I have to do something to manage the situation. If the worst happens, if this man happens to choose the right casket or is going towards choosing the right casket or the box in which my portrait is kept, then I may have to do some internal management so that I don't have to marry a man like him, a drunkard like him. And Nerissa says, if he should offer to choose and choose the right casket, you should refuse to perform your father's will if you should refuse to accept him. But then, Portia, if you are saying that you will manage something, but you cannot really go against your father's will. If he decides to choose or participate in the lottery of the 3 caskets and he happens to choose the right box, so if he offers to choose and if he should choose the right casket, and if you then refuse to carry out whatever is said in your father's will, then won't you be actually going against your father's last wishes if you refuse him? Portia says, therefore, for fear of the worst, I pray thee, set a deep glass of Rhenish wine on the contrary casket. Therefore, Nerissa, I request you, I pray thee means I request you, for I fear the worst. It can possibly happen. You never know. It's a lottery. He could be participating and he could be choosing the right box. So before that can happen, I request you, Nerissa, to put a deep glass of Rhenish wine. That means place a large glass of Rhenish wine, white wine made from grapes grown in the Rhine Valley in Germany. This man is German, and Rhenish wine is considered to be the best quality wine in the world, which comes from the district of Rhine along the banks of the river Rhine in Germany, where grapes are grown. The best of grapes in the world are grown there, and the white wine is the most precious and the most quality wine. So put a big glass of wine on the wrong casket. Just put it and let him then go ahead with the choice of the caskets. I am 100% sure that if he sees the glass of wine, he will choose that particular casket. So that is the only way I can avoid this man. For if the devil be within and that temptation without, I know he will choose it. Because he will be tempted to choose that casket, the wrong casket on which the glass of wine is kept. Because the devil will work inside him and will tempt him and will provoke him, and he will go ahead and choose that casket. And then Portia says, I will do anything, Nerissa, or I will be married to a sponge. Nerissa, I am ready to do anything before I decide to marry a drunkard. Sponge means drunkard. I am ready to do anything before I have to marry a drunkard. So I have to try to avoid this marriage from happening. Nerissa says, you need not fear, lady, the having of any of these lords. So already Nerissa has mentioned a total of 6 princely suitors one by one, and now she says you need not worry about marrying any of these suitors, because they have acquainted me with their determinations, because these suitors have already informed me about their decision. Determinations is decision, which is indeed to return to their home. And what decision have they taken? They have decided that they will go back home. They will not participate in this lottery of caskets. After they have come to know the terms and conditions, you remember that there were 3 terms and conditions for being a participant in the lottery of the caskets according to Portia's father's will. First condition, that you are supposed to leave the place at once after choosing the wrong casket. Second condition was that you will not speak about what you have found inside the wrong casket or which casket you have chosen to anyone once you lose and once you leave. And the third condition was, if you are the suitor, you will not be able to marry for the rest of your life. So these were the 3 conditions, and these men, they have understood the 3 conditions and they have decided they will not participate because they don't want to take all these risks. And so they have already told Nerissa to convey to Portia that they have decided to go back home. and to trouble you with no more suit. And so they don't want to trouble you with any more requests of marriage. Suit means requests of marriage. Unless you may be won by, we move on to page 35. We have already finished page 34. Now we are moving on to page 35. Look at your textbook. So unless there is some alternative means of winning you, that is what these suitors have said. Some other sort than your father's imposition, depending on the caskets. So other than your father's imposition or father's directions as mentioned in his will, which is based on these three caskets, if there is any other alternative means by which they can marry you, then they will try. Otherwise they will not try, because the terms and conditions of your father's will are not acceptable to them. So Portia says, if I live to be as old as Sibylla, I will die as chaste as Diana. Now here there are two mythological references. Remember, students, that whenever these references are given by Shakespeare, explanations are provided side by side with the text. Please go through and please memorize. Remember, because in your exam you may get this as an extract. You could be asked to explain who was Sibylla, who was Diana. So just let's refer to the notes given alongside. Portia says, if I happen to live as old as Sibylla. Now Sibylla, who was Sibylla? Sibylla is actually the name of Sibyl, who was a prophetess in Roman mythology. So this is a Roman mythology we are referring to. Apollo is the supreme god in Roman mythology. He is the king of the gods. Had granted her as many years of life as there were sand grains she held in her hand. Here she is used as the traditional old woman. So mythology says that Apollo had once given a boon to Sibyl, or a prophetess in Roman mythology. He asked her to hold in her hand a handful of sand, and then he said, as many grains of sand as you are holding in your hand, you will live for those many years. And that is how she lived on and on and on, and she is the embodiment of the old woman in Roman mythology. So Portia says, even if I have to live for as long as Sibylla and become an old woman, I am not ready to marry any of these suitors. I will die as chaste as Diana. I will die as pure as Diana. Now Diana is the goddess of virginity in Roman mythology. Again, Roman mythology. And she is the goddess of virginity. She was also the goddess of hunting and the goddess of the moon. So Diana has three roles. She looks after the ministry of, you have certain ministers who look after 2-3 separate departments in the government. Similarly, among the gods and goddesses also, they have their division of departments. Now Diana, she was the goddess of virginity. Virginity means maidenhood. That means woman who is not married and is not in a relationship with a man, not in any physical relationship with a man. So she is the goddess of purity, because she is the goddess of virginity. And she was also the goddess of hunting. So the people who went hunting, they would worship goddess Diana, the Romans particularly, and then they would go hunting so that they could hunt and come back successfully. And then she was also the goddess of the moon. So her other name is Luna. Remember that Diana has another name, Luna, and that's why anything pertaining to the moon is called lunar. So you have heard of lunar eclipse and solar eclipse. So that lunar, the term lunar comes from the name of the goddess Luna. So Diana's other name was Luna. Remember this. This is additional information, I think not provided here. Anyway, it's worth to remember. Now, Portia goes on to say, I am glad. So unless I be obtained by the manner of my father's will, so I am ready to become as old as Sibylla, and remain unmarried for the rest of my life, as long as somebody does not choose the correct casket according to my father's will. I am glad this parcel of wooers are so reasonable. And then he says that I am very happy that this group of wooers are suitors, or the people who wanted to marry Portia. So I am so glad that these people are so reasonable, for there is not among them, but I dote on his very absence, because there is not a single one among them whom I am going to miss. Dote on here means whom I am going to miss when they are gone. And I pray God grant them a fair departure. And I pray to God that God grants them a safe and happy journey back home. Nerissa says, do you not remember, lady, in your father's time, a Venetian? Now Nerissa starts talking about Bassanio. The same Bassanio whom we met earlier in Act 1, Scene 1, talking to Antonio. And Bassanio was talking about Portia, and now Nerissa is reminding Portia about Bassanio. Do you not remember, lady, in your father's time, when your father was alive, a Venetian, a scholar and a soldier, a man who was a Venetian, that means a Venetian citizen, that means came from Venice, and he was a learned man, a scholar, highly educated, and he was a soldier. So these were the aspects of a true gentleman. He had to be brave, he had to have some fighting skills, or he had to have the skills of a soldier, and he had to have good education. So this man had come during your father's time. He came hither, hither means here, in company of the Marquis of Montferrat. So the Marquis of Montferrat, here the title of an Italian nobleman who would have been known by the name in England at this time. So at this time, when Shakespeare was writing this play, way back some 400 years ago, this man was a famous character in England, and it was a title given to an Italian nobleman. So his name had spread far and wide through Europe, and in England also people knew about the Marquis of Montferrat. So here we see William Shakespeare giving the reference of this nobleman, and he says through the mouth of Nerissa that, do you not remember that there was this young man, a scholar, a soldier from Venice, who came in the company of the Marquis of Montferrat to meet your father? Portia says, yes, yes, it was Bassanio, as I think. So was he called. So Portia immediately becomes very thoughtful, very happy, and very romantic. And she says, yes, yes, I think I remember his name. His name was Bassanio. Nerissa says, true, madam. Yes, madam, you are correct. He, of all the men that ever my foolish eyes looked upon, was the best deserving a fair lady. So, among all the men that I have seen so far, I feel, my dear lady, that he was the right person who deserved the hand of a fair lady like you. Only he can be the ideal husband for you. Portia says, I remember him well, and I remember him worthy of thy praise. Yes, I remember him very well, and I can recollect that the way you are praising him, he was really worth it. He really deserved to be praised. And at that very moment, as if coincidentally, enter a servant. How now? What news? Portia says, oh, come on now, what is the message, or what news have you brought? Servant says, the 4 strangers seek for you, madam, to take their leave. 4 strangers? Actually, the servant is referring to those princely suitors who have already told Nerissa that they are now leaving, they are going back home. But there were 6 of them, but William Shakespeare seems to have forgotten that he had mentioned 6 suitors one by one through the mouth of Nerissa, because the servant comes and says, the 4 suitors are asking for you, they want to take your permission to leave, to take their leave, and there is a forerunner come from a 5th, and there is a messenger who has arrived from a 5th gentleman. Actually, he should have said 7th. William Shakespeare was forgetful. He never revised his work much. What he wrote on, maybe he gave a pause in between and continued the next day, and he completely forgot about the fact that he had mentioned 6 suitors. So here there is a reference. Shakespeare, 4 strangers, 6 have been mentioned earlier. Possible explanations for this are, there are 2 possibilities. Shakespeare seems to have forgotten that 6 suitors have been discussed earlier. And second, the Scottish and the English lords were added to the scene to amuse the audience later on, in a later version of the play. So earlier there were four, but these two were added later. But this rectification of this particular dialogue was not done by Shakespeare, or maybe it was added later by somebody else, since William Shakespeare's plays have been revised and modified many a times by other playwrights also. And there is a third possibility. The servant regards two of the suitors with such contempt that they are not even worth mentioning. So maybe he does not like to name the two suitors, especially the ones who are whom he dislikes, and therefore he talks about four. So there are three possibilities, but the first possibility is the most likely possibility, that William Shakespeare must have forgotten. So another has come from the Prince of Morocco, who brings word. The prince, his master, will be here tonight. So there is yet another information, madam, that there is a messenger who has arrived from his master, the Prince of Morocco, and he has arrived to give the message that his master, the Prince of Morocco, will be arriving here this evening. So we have finished with page 35, moving on to page 36. Portia says, "If I could bid the fifth welcome with so good heart as I did bid the other four farewell, I should be glad of his approach." It's very simple and easy to understand that if I could welcome the next suitor with the same state of mind, happy state of mind, as I am saying goodbye to the previous suitors, then I would be very happy about his approach, that this man, the Prince of Morocco, is coming here. If he have the condition of a saint and the complexion of a devil, I had rather he should shrive me than wive me. Meaning to say that if this man, because we know that Morocco is an African country, and so the prince of that country is obviously a black, and William Shakespeare here points out the discriminations that happen between blacks and whites, and we see Portia expressing disregard or dislike for this black suitor, even though although he is a prince, and so she says that if I could welcome him with the same happy feeling as I am saying goodbye to the previous six suitors, then I would be happy about his approach. And if he has the nature of a saint, condition of a saint, if this suitor who is coming here now, that is Prince of Morocco, if he has the nature of a saint but the complexion of a devil, because he is black, so he is comparable to the devil. Black means negative, black means devil, black means anything that is bad. So that is the comparison made here by Portia. So if he has the complexion of the devil, that is, he has a dark complexion, but he has a good nature like that of a saint, then I wish that he should rather preach me than marry me. He should rather hear my sins and grant me forgiveness like a holy man. If he has a saintly nature, then he would be welcome as a holy man, and he can come and give me some religious advice and forgive me my sins instead of planning to marry me. Come, Nerissa, Sirrah, go before. Sirrah was a common term used in those times to refer to servants. So Sirrah means fellow. Hey, you fellow, you move ahead. Come, Nerissa, let's go. Whilst we shut the gate upon one wooer, another knocks at the door. While we shut the door or the gate of my house upon some suitors, another arrives and starts knocking at the door. So it seems that we have to deal with more of such suitors. Saying this, Nerissa and Portia leave the scene. Exeunt Portia and Nerissa, the servant, and the scene comes to an end. With this, we have finished Act 1, Scene 2, and as you can see on your screen, Act 1, Scene 3 coming up. We will take this scene up in our next Merchant of Venice class. Till then, I hope I have been able to make you understand whatever I have explained today. If you have any doubt, please go through my video over and over again so that you understand each and every line that I have explained, and also go through the side notes which are provided here so that there is no confusion whatsoever with regard to the lines. Understanding each and every line is important, and also reading whatever is in the workbook is very, very important. So we will call it a day with that.